Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome to Career Launch Live. I am your host, Catherine McCord, and this dancing fool over here is Dr. J. I was doing the same thing, I'm not going to lie. I was back there just getting it. Oh my God, that was awesome. Okay, this is as you all know, if you've seen Dr. J before, she is a staple on the show. She is always fantastic bunch of wisdom for us. And today we're actually going to talk for once about your actual wheelhouse. You come on to talk to me about so many subjects, but today we're going to talk about education in the workplace and what it means to educate adults, why we need to do it, how we need to do it, and all the crazy stuff in between. But first, could you tell everybody who hasn't seen you before a little bit more about yourself?
Good morning or afternoon, everyone, or evening.
It'll be, wherever you are. That's true.
I'm Dr. Jerri Johnson. Quick synopsis, 20+ year educator. I have experienced everything from a classroom to district office administration. I've been a director in a nonprofit organization, now transitioned to a consultant and coach for leaders in school districts across the country on the topic of curriculum implementation. So that's what I'm doing currently. I've also written a book and I've worked at the collegiate level.
I have it. Look, hold on. Where'd it go? It's back here. Where'd you go? I got it. I
always forget about it. Like
there it is. Ha ha. There it is. Imagine that. Bam, with that beautiful picture. Look at it.
I always forget about it.
It's awesome. I don't forget about it. It's awesome. And I keep it in my desk because there's a couple stories in it that just make me laugh and make me happy. And they have such great wisdom. And so every once in a while, when I'm having just one of those days, I just pull it out and I read a little bit of it. And then it's also kind of like I'm talking to my friends. So
yes, because you were in my voice because you've heard it before.
Yes, that's exactly how I read it, and it kept making me giggle. And Kristen said the same thing. It was so funny. Our friend Kristen Durney. So education in the workplace. So this is such a big thing, right? Like so many people talk about growth in the workplace.
Yeah,
and everybody thinks that just means promotion, but it doesn't. And even when you are promoted, you got to learn how to do that next job, right? Because you know they just stick you in a job and think that you just magically know how to do it.
Pretty much.
All the time. So, so first things first, when an organization wants to have a robust training program, you have to build out a curriculum, right? So first things first, what do you have to consider when making a great curriculum in the workplace?
Well, I think you have to do some research within your organization first, because you have to know the level of knowledge of the people that are already there. You have to as well look at outside research regarding the industry that you're in and what may be hot topics or things that, are up and coming that those particular positions may need to know. The biggest thing that I've found is that people don't do the research within their own organization, which is a problem because you need to start with the people that are already working for you.
Yeah, just a little bit.
They need to grow. I mean, it even happens in the field of education, though. We a lot of times support new teachers coming into education a lot more than we support the teachers that are already there and have been doing the work.
And nothing is worse than being like, wait a minute, why are you being nicer to them? And I've been here and I've been loyal to you. Like, what?
Exactly. As far as pay and everything, right?
Because
sometimes we give people signing bonuses for coming in, all these types of benefits for coming, especially in the field of education, for coming into the field of education. But then you forget about the people who have been there, and these new teachers or new administrators come in making more than the people who have been there for 20 years. It's a little bit
true.
weird.
It happens all the time in every industry. That happens constantly. And I've never understood it. Just elevate the other people's pay too. Like why are you just gonna? Well, we know why, because they're cheap.
Right. You incentivize the people coming in and you don't really know their skill set. and their level of knowledge when you should know the skill sets and level of knowledge of the people that are already in your organization.
So let's hit that up real quick. I want to, because this is something I wanted to hit on real quick. Right? Let's really hit on this because this is something that makes me crazy too. An organization ends up having a need, like they need somebody who knows XYZ skill, and
Right.
they number one, just assume nobody has it. Again, no, they don't bother to ask. And then number two,
That's so true.
it's so true. It happens all the time. And then you have somebody over here who already knew that. And they're like, hello, like right here. So A, ask. B, the next thing that they do is they go out and they hire. Well, now hold on a minute. First of all, that may not be a whole job, just needing to do the skill. But even if it is, especially if it's a higher paying opportunity or it's an opportunity to grow as a professional, why not talk to one of your people who's already working for you, have them learn the skill, and then promote them?
Exactly. Because you always have people who want to learn more. Like I am that type of person.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind taking positions that, I don't necessarily know everything about. Like because why? I put it on myself to come in and grow and learn,
100%.
A lot of times people are looking for this one niche, that this person has. And then they get in there and they find out, oh, they can't talk to people. They don't know how to talk to folks. They don't know how to build relationships. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. But no, you were just looking for this in your interview.
Right.
So go back to doing the research in your organization. That should be where you start, is with the people that are already there, especially if you want to build any type of training program or what have you, because they still need to be developed and growing in the industry as well. It makes them more marketable. It makes your company more marketable. I mean,
it makes them happier. You talk about retention. Like if I can keep growing and this company keeps teaching me and educating me and giving me opportunities. And by the way, folks, whenever somebody tells you in an interview that they want growth, ask them what that means to them, because to some people that means promotion. To a lot of people though, and I can tell you this from personal experience, it means education.
That's me.
That's what it means. I want to learn new stuff. I want to learn it wherever I am. Over here, your hand keeps going.
That's me right here. Like that's me.
Wherever you are, I do that too. Like I'll point the wrong way on the screen. I'm like, because to me you're right there, but really you're over there.
Right.
But we're special. I promise you, folks, we were not smoking or drinking anything right before this episode. Oh my gosh. I tell you what, but no, it's so true, and it's baffling to me. So when you're going to create a curriculum, start off with what do people actually need to know, and what will they need to know going forward. Like for instance, AI is going to be a huge part of our world in the next couple of years. Start prepping your people now. And folks, by the way, if you aren't already learning this stuff, start learning it. If you're planning to still be working in a few years, it's coming and it's not going away. So help them upskill constantly, continuously upskilling. So then the next step when you're building out a curriculum is, okay, so now I know, what people need to learn. Where do I go to get the resources to teach these humans? Or do I just go like find certification program? What do I do?
I mean, you have to figure out like what lane you really want to be in and what your organization can afford. Like, because if it's you want to do someone coming in and actually coaching or training, or you want to do online courses, there's plenty of companies out there that have online courses.
Oh yeah.
Or if you want to build something yourself for your organization for them to use because you want to be specific in the different types of trainings you want to do, there are companies that can help you do that. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you are looking at current research in your industry, because that's what's going to tell you, like you just said, kind of what's coming in that industry. And what I've found, and I'm just gonna put this out here, is we don't read. Like we don't read and become members of the different organizations that may hone in on our industry. For example,
Yes.
I'm a member of Educational Leadership. I get magazines every month. Like I'm a member of ASCD, you know, for curriculum development and all of that. I get literature every month. Like there's still a
Yeah.
you need somebody that is going to actually do well with being able to research and read what is going on, whether it's on the computer with a subscription or whatever. Be a member of these different organizations that are doing the research for your industry. Because
100%.
I've found even a lot of principals aren't members of, like I'm a member of a social studies, like because I love history. My minor was history, so I'm a member of NSSC. So it's like NCSS, I'm sorry. So I'm just like, we don't
get out there and
sit down
participate.
and do the research.
No, but you have to. You have to. And very much to your point, so there are these wonderful organizations out there that are there to give you resources, and some of them do it completely for free or extremely cheap. So like in HR, everybody thinks that they have to join SHRM, right? Because that's like the big organization. And by the way, I will say they have gotten way better about their education. It's finally starting to actually like modernize a little bit, which is great. They're putting real efforts. But there's other options out there too, like HR Mavericks. Fantastic group, tons of education. You can also contribute to them, which elevates your career, by the way. And they have classes, they have, articles, all this kind of stuff. Also following your industry and your line of work on education sites like Allison or Udemy. Then you will see certification options, all kinds of things like that. It is absolutely wonderful to do. And some of them are free and some of them are super, super cheap. So yeah, do the research, join the groups, and yeah, you should be reading whatever you're into. If you want to be great at it, read and learn and watch videos and listen to podcasts and do all the things that makes the difference. That's part of your education.
Exactly. And all those things that you just mentioned, the podcast and all of that, Catherine, I mean, I would send out certain articles to my staff monthly, or just a little snippet that I might have seen, even on like TikTok or Instagram or something regarding education or a current, Pinterest type thing, because my teachers, all these classrooms look like Pinterest, like classrooms, right? So I knew they were interested in that. So I used to send little clips out every now and then or put it in the newsletter, look at this classroom. Maybe you can get some ideas from this or what have you.
So cute.
I mean, so the thing is, all of those types of things are things that even managers or directors can send out to the people that they supervise on a monthly basis for growth. The people who want to grow are going to read those types of things. So you don't necessarily have to have, a learning and development person in your department. You might have one for the organization, but in your department, and you as the director or the manager, you can still have those types of quick growth opportunities. For the people that you supervise. It doesn't have to be a whole curriculum, a whole course, or anything. People appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, even get a few that click on the link or what have you that you send in a newsletter or an email or something. Say, hey, I thought you guys might be interested in this. I mean, I used to put music in some of my news. Listen to this song, get your day started.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get people going. And that's such a good point. And it doesn't have to be this big, dramatic, formal thing either. Point people to things. Hey, I saw this. And even like you can help your team as a leader, find these courses, or just as a team member. If you find something, share it out with your group. Hey, I found this free course and it only takes a total of 10 hours to complete. And you can do it on your own time. And you have a certification at the end. Here you go. I found this cool TikTok. And you're right, TikTok, man, there's great stuff for negotiation, leadership, HR, IT stuff. There's some for coding, all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. Get on there, follow the right things, get your algorithm right, and you will get some of the coolest stuff. It's absolutely amazing. And just I learn the most random things. Another, like on TikTok, I have had just like random things, or it will inspire something. I'll be watching these things and it just inspires this whole other thing. But another one that I think a lot of people miss, that you and I experienced together last year, is the power of coming together with brilliant people in your field or not.
Yes.
And just collaborating with them and then building those partnerships. So could you talk to us a little bit about that and what that looks like? Because I seem to remember a very smart lady doing a presentation in her red sneakers.
I know, in my black dress, yes. You all told me not to put my heels on. So.
I think it was fantastic. That was the best part of the whole thing. You inspired my shoes for this year, actually. But anyway, go ahead.
No, because last year when Jen asked me to be a part of HRDS, I was like, how do I fit into this? Like, what? I don't get it. But once I got into the room and once I heard my topic along with everybody else's topics, even though we had a varied amount of topics, like types of industries, but they all came together at certain points. They're all intertwined. So it really does help, because I spent most of my teaching career are just around educators for the most part, in rooms at conferences and things like that. But to be around people who are in different industries and see the synergy of everything that we actually were doing in our careers or have done in our careers, we all, came from different places, different backgrounds, all of that, but we all could talk about the same topics in the same way and have very similar stories.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. And you start to realize, you start to realize how much you can learn from people not doing the exact same job as you, and how much genius you can get from them. And so there was an activity I did during my facilitation of that event where I had everybody, kind of build out a job, process, like a hire process and a job rec and all that kind of stuff. And what was so funny, I stuck you and Seth together, and Seth, they both have education backgrounds. Okay, that's their backgrounds. And they came up with some of the most brilliant ideas and just had some of the most human-centric and very focused on what actually needed to be understood versus, all these things that a lot of people would typically plug into this stuff. And it was so interesting to see, because at first they were like, why'd you put us together? We don't know anything. We're going to look stupid. And then they came up with some of the most brilliant stuff there, because and some of the, like, there are people taking notes. Like, I'm going to do that. Because I actually stole y'all's wording with a client for a client's job. But it was just, it was so brilliant because you had a different perspective. Now, you both participated in hiring, so you knew what that looked like. But it was that coming from it from a different perspective, and we all could learn. There were people that do HR, leaders, all that. Everybody there, was just engulfed in these, this kind of process. And here you two were just, coming up with this innovation. And so you can learn from other people too. And I think that's so important and beautiful, that it's not just and you should learn from your industry people too, but go outside of that, because then some of the coolest stuff happens.
It does. It does. I think that's why I was still comfortable. I'm comfortable in any space I go into, but I make other people uncomfortable sometimes. I think that is why I was so comfortable going from education to nonprofit now, back kind of like the education adjacent, but not, because I look at the people part more. Like, I look at the human piece a lot more than the knowledge piece a lot of times, because my thing is, you can gain the knowledge. If you really want to know, if you really want to learn, if you really want to grow, you're going to do that no matter where you are. But the human piece is something that's very difficult to unlearn and very difficult to learn. at certain, points in
That's
your
true.
life. So, is when I focus more on the human piece, then that allows me to be fluid through a lot of different things,
Yeah.
a lot of different situations, deal
Yep.
with a lot of different people.
Yep.
All of
Yeah. I thought you're like kind of looking at me while you're saying that, like those different people, like the
different people.
But it's true, and that leads me into something else I wanted to bring up. So, we've been seeing a lot, again, because we're kind of at that time of year for the different. It's this day or that day or this month or that month, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's whew, I tell you what, in HR that can get real overwhelming real
Every
fast.
day is every day.
something. I'm like, I can't post about all of these, you guys. Come on. So one of the things that's very interesting to me is a lot of people post about these problems going on, but again, the research isn't always there, so sometimes we've misconstrued what the issue is. And so one of the things that we've all heard so much about is the wage gap, right?
Yeah.
But I want to real quick. So the wage gap is there's an uncontrolled and a controlled. Typically, what organizations post is the uncontrolled, which is the everybody's thrown in together. So like, so like it could be a school teacher and then a CEO. Like all of them are all mixed in there together. Like controlled is when you do like to like. So the controlled wage gaps, except for a couple of demographics, kind of randomly, are pretty close. Like those gaps are almost touching at this point.
Okay.
They're hardly gaps anymore. Like they're super. It's like 98 cents to a dollar, 99 cents to a dollar, so on and so forth. Except for women of color in CEO jobs, but that's a whole other show. We're not going to get into that right now. But that one drops back. But
right.
But what's interesting is, but then the uncontrolled can be so big. So you're like, how, for instance, there was a post the other day about Hispanic women that were saying that the wage gap was 57 cents to the dollar. Now, when you look at the controlled, it's 98 cents. So what that tells us is that there's not the same hiring momentum, and that there's not the same promotion and opportunities.
Okay.
So one thing that I wanted to ask you about is where you feel the education or opportunity, either way, gap is happening there, because it's not that Latina women don't go to college or anything. Right. That's not the problem. That's not it. Or that they don't do very well, that they're not professional. None of that's it. So I know where the problems are in hiring, but in terms of education and opportunity and making sure that we're being inclusive, where are the holes and what can we do to fix it?
I think as far as a gap like that, and I'm just going to go off of my personal experience as a woman of color. Okay.
Please. I'm not, so please.
I think that there are gaps in women of color not knowing or not being aware of the negotiation process, and feeling as if we don't have the power to negotiate many times or the voice to negotiate. The second thing is financial literacy is a gap.
That's a big one.
Because even when we get the jobs, the 6-figure jobs, and I have experienced this myself, even when we get the 6-figure jobs as a single mom and all of this type of stuff, we may not have had the financial literacy to be able to keep the money and grow the money that we are getting, because we've been so used to trying to survive on what it was that we were getting that we keep that mindset, and
yeah, that makes sense. Scarcity, like the scarcity
mindset.
Yeah.
So I think those two things would help in that wage gap, because then when you have the financial literacy, you understand how the money works. And when you get to the table, you understand what money you need or what money you are owed.
That is a very good point. So
your background and experience and all of that.
You're going to do the
research on
Interesting. It. And I've seen a big push lately for financial literacy education in the workplace.
Absolutely.
A big push. And I'm a huge fan of it. It's, by the way, employers, it's free. It's free. Financial advisors will come in and literally teach this to your people for free because they can potentially gain clients out of it, but still they do it for free. So have them come in and for free teach your staff these topics. And and you also touched on something, or this is what I took from it. Please tell me if you think this is right. That companies are not creating good psychological safety so that people feel like they can ask the right questions, get the, do the negotiations without fear of being hired or pushed back or anything like that. Thought less of. I feel like that's a big hole.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is because they come to the table, and I've done a lot of interviewing in the last 2-3 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. They come to the table with, they put you on these panel of interviews, all these people, 5-6 rounds of interviews. Then you finally get to the last round and you get offered the job. They come to the table as if you need them. Yeah. After I've just done 5 or 6 interviews, spent all my time, giving you my intellectual property because you asking me for performance events and all this stuff, come on, man. So it's the energy that they come with. And I'm not blaming all HR people at all. I understand that the company has a bottom line, but what I also understand is that you need people for the company to run. So if the HR person were a little bit more, I guess, personable and actually caring about the employee and them being comfortable with taking this position, then the HR person might educate the person a little bit too.
Yes. And that's how it, yes, thank you. That is exactly how it should be from someone who does people operations consulting, right, and has been part of many hire processes. Okay. Like I literally cannot even count anymore. You have to educate candidates and tell them like what's negotiable. Here's what's something reasonable. And one thing, depending on the position, I don't do this for every position, but for a lot of professional roles that I've worked, I started doing a salary, like comp type sheet that I would give to them and be like, so here's, the industry, the blah, 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 here's with your skill levels, here's what we have going on. This is how we came up with your offer. But feel free to counter it. Like, did we miss something? And what's interesting is when I did that, they would go, oh yeah, no, I also have this skill over here that I see you had marked as being an indicator to pay higher. All right, cool. Let's do that. That's cool. Because you want to make sure that you're paying people well. And by the way, companies, this is a great way to start off your relationship with your team is by not trying to rip them off. Yeah. Who knew? But yes, HR folks, educate people during the process, for gosh sakes. Like tell them what's going on, and be honest about just never lie to candidates. That gets on my nerves. But definitely educating people. So creating the psychological safety for education. This even goes into DE&I education too, is psychological safety. I mean, again, back at HRDS, so Seth did that beautiful presentation about curiosity and inclusion and asking questions. And I told him, and he's perfectly okay with it. I stole his word. When I do my classes, I teach a lot of breaking the ego defense and then responding with curiosity. That's the wording that I got from him. Yeah. And he, so he inspired that. And it was a beautiful presentation about the importance of letting people feel safe to open up. And it's so very true. Yes. If people don't have that safety to open up and don't feel like they can, or they feel like, oh, everybody's going to think I'm a this-ism or this-ism if I ask this question, we're never going to solve problems and we're never going to get anywhere. And the same thing is true for people in marginalized communities that can't step forward and ask for accommodations, right, or bring up harassment or anything else. So psychological safety in education, whether you're teaching a class and your class just needs to know that it's okay to ask the teacher or say to the teacher, hey, I'm not getting it. That's psychological safety. Or if it's speaking up and going, this is wrong. Right. And it needs to be fixed. Or just asking a question that may seem almost inappropriate. That you're going to give some grace and that you're going to embrace the humanity of these other people. So my final question on this subject of education is, on the DE&I front, because I get asked a lot about this. And you and I have talked about inclusion topics many times before. It's actually how we met, was on somebody else's show talking about this kind of stuff. And so when you're talking about educating for those kinds of topics, what are some of the important foundations that you would lay?
I think just what you just said, that psychological safety piece is huge, because you can't have those types of conversations until people feel safe in the space. So creating the space to feel safe is a huge thing. Also, just what you said a minute ago with Seth and the curiosity piece. I tell people all the time, and before I met Seth, when I met Seth, I promise you, it was like a confirmation. You know how you feel when you get confirmed on something? Like, I knew I was right. Like, I knew it.
Yeah, I know. I do the same thing with him. I'm like, yeah. Oh.
So, yeah.
Seth, he's the confirmation guru, apparently.
So, yeah, I mean, that curiosity piece and asking questions before you tell. I used to say that all the time, and I say it in my co-parenting sessions too. Like, you have to get to a place where you're curious about why somebody does something or why somebody says something. Even with kids, I used to try to say, like, what happened to you, not what did you do? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, what happened to you? Like, or why did you do that? Most of the time they say, I don't know. So, okay, what happened to you? So then maybe I don't know why you reacted that way.
Yes.
Instead of, what did you do? Like, what did you do?
Yeah. It's the attitude difference. It creates a different response.
And it creates an openness to, they really want to hear what I have to say. Like, no, because most of the time people get shut down when they say something somebody doesn't like. But if I'm asking you the question, then that provides an open door, right? To be comfortable to say what you want to say or do. So,
absolutely.
So I think that's another thing, is staying curious and asking questions before you tell somebody something. Also, the third thing is get out your feelings. Like, when
no drama
topics that may be uncomfortable for you, think about how uncomfortable it is for everybody else in that room, or even the person who's saying what they're saying, because they don't know what they're going to get back.
Right.
Like, we really need to step back and look at the wider view of things most of the time. But once we get into that emotional space and that emotional, when we start thinking with that side of our brain, we can't think clearly.
No, we can't. And actually, 100%. And I actually talking about Seth, I had a moment with Seth that was like that. Who is the most like calm, like chill human in the history of life. He really is, and I'm so not. And it was the funniest little interaction. So we were sitting at lunch, and you were there, but you were at the other end of the table. And so you may or may not remember this. I don't know. But Seth and I were talking, and I don't remember how it came up, but he said something about how like Michael Vick had served his time. Well, what he didn't know, you remember. So what he didn't know was that I had actually taken care of some of those dogs and like actually like been like around for all that. So saying that to me, it's like, it's one of the few things I still have trouble controlling my temper about. And so, and bless Seth's heart, like, and I know why he felt that way, right? There's a logic to it, and I see it. So I started to get hot, and then I held up my hand and I said, I am so sorry.
I remember that.
Yeah, I said, I bet you do. So cute.
I'm like,
and I just held up my hand. I said, I'm so sorry. Just give me a minute on that. That's a hot topic for me. And we paused, and I came back later and I explained to him why. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And I understand what you went through. We had a really great conversation out of it, but I had to realize that my way too hot emotions for that situation just That was not the right response. It was not constructive. And that wasn't even what we were talking about. It was just a comment that he made on a subject in which we actually agreed very much. And so what we have to remember is our response has nothing to do with that person. Seth wasn't saying, yay, dog fighting. That, right. That wasn't it, at all. It was, it was just, so sometimes you have to control your emotions, check it, and be like, all right, let me go process through this. I'll be right back. It's okay, or let's skip it for now. We'll circle back later, however you want to do it. But it is very important to address those emotions, especially when educating around complicated topics.
Yes,
which a lot of stuff like that can be.
People don't, I don't think people step outside of their perspective and what their lived experience is and try to see it and listen to what the other would listen. Like, everybody says we listen to respond and not to understand. Listen to the other person's lived experience. And just because it's not yours doesn't mean it's not valid.
100%. Okay?
Because in their mind and in their experience, they are the ones that experience that whole thing. You have never experienced that, so you can't tell them how to feel about that. Yes. And that drives me nuts when people try to tell me how I should feel about something. And I'm like, really? So let me do it to you so we can see how you react. Like, will you let me do that to you? I mean, come on.
It's so frustrating. Like, don't do that. Don't invalidate somebody. Now, the only time I do tell people, like, I will correct somebody who says something that is factually inaccurate. Like, I saw a post in which I was very delicate about how I did it. Somebody just posted a wrong fact. Like, it was just I don't even know where they got it. But I also validated their point because their point was still correct. And so, like, I made sure, like, and actually the interaction went pretty well. So correcting a fact is one thing, but don't correct somebody's experience. Don't correct their reception of what's going on. You can say, I'm so sorry, I did not intend it that way.
Right.
But then stop. Not, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm so sorry, I did not intend it that way. Exactly. Let me explain. But don't invalidate their experience. That's not acceptable. Right. So that's your last bit of education. This is a new season with a new format. I have two. I'm now asking every guest 2 questions as we wrap up. The first one will be loosely related to the topic, or will be related to the topic we just discussed. And the other one's just random. So just a random question for you. So this, we've been talking about education. We kind of covered kind of the gamut. Run us down like your top 3 or 4 every organization needs to be doing this with their education program.
Whoa. Number 1 is talk to your people. Talk to your people who are currently there and see if what they want to learn to grow. And then also where they feel the gaps are, in your training or in your support program. I always call them support programs because to me, you support people in growing. So, this should be growth programs or support programs, not necessarily trainings. But anyway, number 2, make sure you do your research in your industry about what is current and then also what is upcoming, because it seems to be a lot upcoming that we may not know about, and people need to be aware of that. Share that research that you find or those little tidbits with the people in your organization, even if you just share them out in an email or a quick little, text or whatever you send out. Slack, because they be slacking us all day. Slack. Have a channel on Slack for it, little tidbits for today, something like that. And number 3, I think you really need to have a plan and a system and a process for the growth of your employees. If you don't already have it, or even if you do, check in on it every year, because every year something changes, and update it. You don't necessarily have to have one person that does all of that. Your managers or directors are supposed to be doing that in their departments. So there should be some flow of information or training going in each department that you should know about. Like, and there should be a process and a system for that, of documentation of who's getting what. Because I know as me as an employee, now I don't want to go into organizations or be in an organization that is not providing any type of professional development, training, or growth opportunities for me. I'm just like, if I can't grow under you as my manager, my supervisor, or whoever, I don't want to work for you.
Like, and that's not just you. That is not just you. That is everybody. I hear that all day, every day.
Like, and me as a manager, director, principal, administrator, or what have you, I have to know that the people that I'm supervising, I have to know what they want to grow. I used to have meetings with the people that I supervise every quarter to see where they were, what they felt like they needed to know. Are there any classes or courses or anything that you would like to participate in?
Talk to your people.
Or, you know what I'm saying? You have to talk to your, I don't understand how we work every day and we don't talk to folks. I know I'm on Zoom all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, I know, but people don't listen. They don't listen, and they don't have the important they talk about dumb stuff and not the important conversations.
Oh, that is so true. Oh my God.
Meetings that should have been emails, and then they can't talk to you about the stuff that actually matters.
Come on, people, let's get it together.
Get it together. That's the number one tip of the episode.
Nothing from COVID. You need to get it together.
Get it together. Be more efficient. Good grief. So my last question for you, because I always love these stories from you. Real quick, can you tell us the funniest thing one of the kids in your education career said to you?
I will tell you something. One of the high school students, I was walking through a high school 2 weeks ago. I was walking through a high school in Massachusetts, and we were doing a classroom walkthrough. So 4 of us walked into one high school classroom. They're doing math, and I think it was geometry class. And so the girls in the class are popping, like they know the answers. They, raising hands and all. One young lady turns around, the one who is answering all of the questions, and it's like, so, who are you? What's your name? So I tell her, my name is Dr. John, and, well, where are you from? What are you guys doing today? During the math lesson. So we're not supposed to be talking to students during the walkthroughs, but I'm like, I can't just ignore her, So I lean down and I tell her what I was, and then she was like, oh, so where are you from? And I said, I do my work across the country. She was like, what? So she leaned back to her friend. She was like, what? She was like, she said she do work across the country in schools. And she was like, really? She said, have you been to this school? I mean, the teacher just stopped teaching. Everybody was and so I was like, no, I haven't been to that state yet. I'm sorry. She was like, but have you been to this school in our district? Because my boyfriend go to that school. And then I said, oh, Lord. She said, but she a big wig. Does she really do that? She turned to the principal and said, she really do that?
I would die. I was what is happening to me?
Off the banker. Okay. I just couldn't do anything but laugh. And they were like, well, she's a big wig. Like, you coming back? Like,
you impressed the teenagers. You did the thing that every mom, every teacher, everybody has ever wanted to do is impress one of those little pain in the butt teenagers. And you did it. So good job, Dr. J. Thank you so very much for joining me yet again and being absolutely fabulous, as you always are. Real quick, tell everybody where to find you.
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. I do have an Instagram for my LLC, but I'm working on that too much. So I'm on LinkedIn for the most part, and my website, fromthedeskofthedoctor.com. Yes,
and get her book. It is on Amazon. It is awesome.
I've started another one on co-parenting. So if anybody needs any co-parenting,
Oh yeah, she's doing some cool stuff with that too.
Yeah, please let me know. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Let me know.
She's amazing. Follow Dr. J. You will not be sorry. Thank you so much. Be great, everybody.